Hey guys, what's going on? It's Eli, back with another review video, and continuing on reviewing the Marvel films, and, well, in the MCU, of course. So that's right, we come to the first MCU film in Phase 5. Yes, now we've entered into Phase 5. The Marvel films that are in Phase 5 that I'm reviewing, I've now come up to that, so yes. And yeah, Phase 4. A little recap on Phase 4. Well, yeah, it was kind of rocky and such, but there were a few pretty good successors that came from Phase 4. Especially since, after the events of the Infinity Saga, and with, the aftermath of Avengers Endgame and what would come next, yeah, a bit rocky and such for the MCU after all that, but not to say it was terrible, when it came to Season 4. I mean, I'm just saying. But yeah, for Phase 5, Phase 5 was off to not a pretty good start. But in my opinion, I've enjoyed from what's come from Phase 5, and I know the same goes for some of you, because yeah, there were some pretty good materials to come from Phase 5 of the MCU. But this one, however, being the first film in Phase 5, yeah, not a pretty good start. But for me personally, I had no problem with this. I actually thought this was pretty good, pretty fun and such, yeah. So that's right. Now I am finally reviewing the first film installment of Phase 5 of the MCU. Yes, from 2023, Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania. Yes, Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania. Again, this being the first installment of MCU's Phase 5, and yeah, again, not a pretty good start, and for this being the first movie in Phase 5, you get my point, but yeah. But again, for me, personally, I quite enjoyed this. I didn't think it was that bad. I mean, come on, is the third Ant-Man film really that bad? Even my dad told me that when he watched this, he didn't see this being that bad either, and that's good to see. Yeah, so for both me and my dad, we liked Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, and sure, it may not be the best, and for this being the first film in Phase 5 and the best Ant-Man film, and that's another thing, because my dad also said that although he had no problem with the third Ant-Man film, he felt that, not as good as, say, the first two. And yeah, especially the first two Ant-Man films were pretty good. The second one being my personal favorite, yeah. So when it came to the third film, well, it was great to see that we were going to get more, and we did this time. More of the quantum realm, and how it was teasing with the whole thing of the multiverse and, well, with the quantum realm. And at that time, well, with the main antagonist of the third Ant-Man film, and who would also be the main antagonist of the Loki series, you know who I'm talking about, of course. Yeah. But, yeah, just overall, Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania, it is what it is. May not be the strongest and the best to come from Phase 5, and again, this being the first installment of Phase 5, with the movies in Phase 5, and the best Ant-Man film, but just, it's not that terrible, come on. And also, the whole thing of people complaining about the way the CG and visual effects look, well, I guess you can technically blame Black Panther Wakanda Forever for that, because if any of you are aware of this, and I did read this and the best I can put at it is, the budget and such for, the visual effects and CG for, the Marvel films they were doing between the end of Phase 4 and the beginning of Phase 5, Well, basically, that was sacrificed for Wakanda Forever. But I don't know. The CG and visual effects, and to talk about it some more, and to get it out of the way, the CG and visual effects in Ant-Man 3, they don't look that bad to me. I don't know, because not once while I was watching this, did it hit me and, and seeing that, oh yeah, that looks pretty bad. No, didn't look bad to me at all. I guess that's just me, and I'm sure some of you would think so too. I hope that some of you, and you can let me know in the comments section if you didn't see any problem with the CG and visual effects. Besides, there's no doubt that there were some pretty cool CG and visual effects at certain points in the movie, And by the way, because I've seen this, of course, why not, to mention this, people comparing Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania to the Spy Kids movies. Oh, give me a break, guys. Come on. Do you really had to compare this to that? Besides, like, the way Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania looks very detailed and such than, say, the Spy Kids movies. And the way that the CG and visual effects look in the Spy Kids movies, that's how they're done. Like, it's their own look and design. You know what I'm saying? Just, ugh. And not to mention, because, like, most notably in Spy Kids 3D, because where they enter in, like, a video game realm, well, I mean, that's understandable, because, like, video game-looking graphics and such, you know what I'm talking about, just, I don't want to make a huge complaint, but come on, seriously. Why compare Ant-Man 3 to the Spy Kids films, most notably the one that you know what I'm talking about, just, yeah. Just, point being is that the CG and visual effects in the third installment of the Ant-Man trilogy didn't look that bad to me, okay? And besides, since the majority of this movie taking place in the quantum realm, hey, at least I noticed that, they built some practical sets. Is it not obvious? Because, yeah, some parts of the movie where they actually built some sets, but most of the time, like, the atmosphere. Well, obviously, that being with CG, but alright, anyways, but yeah. But just overall, and to finish on the first things I have to say about the third installment, I liked it. I thought it was pretty good. It's not terrible in my opinion. Come on. Again, is it really the worst Ant-Man film, and let alone the worst film in the MCU? Come on. And geez, because 46% on Rotten Tomatoes, not to mention, if I'm correct, yeah, the third Ant-Man film is the first MCU, Marvel film, etc., to get a Razzie nomination. That's bad. It is, but come on, again, is it really this bad? Alright, anyways. But just again, overall, I liked Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania. You're gonna hear me, all throughout the review, some positive things I have to say and such, so yeah, alright. But overall, I enjoyed it. Okay, so, now, as always, for me, read the description / the story. Ant-Man and the Wasp find themselves exploring the quantum realm, interacting with strange new creatures, and embarking on an adventure that pushes them beyond the limits of what they thought was possible. Okay, so, with that out of the way, getting into the film itself, yeah. And, yeah, it's a good thing I first, talked about the CG visual effects, as well as, you can kind of blame this on Wakanda Forever, but just, no hard feelings on Wakanda Forever, okay? Anyways, so, again, getting into the film itself, because, yeah, well, it's interesting how this movie starts, because, and I think it's nice that, well, we know that, Janet, whom, once again, being played by good old Michelle Pfeiffer, her being stuck in the quantum realm for 30 years, until, in the second installment, she was brought back to the real world and reunited with her family. Well, yeah, in the third installment, at times, we get some backstory and, where we see Janet, when she was stuck in the quantum realm. And at one point, she was attacked by these creatures, and something came into the quantum realm, something crashed. And at one point, she meets with someone who shoots off one of these creatures that was attacking her. And that being, oh yes, someone whom, yeah, Janet has no idea at first who she's dealing with. Yeah. And I'm not gonna mention his name yet, but you of course know who it is. Any of you that have seen this movie by now. Anyways, so after that, well, San Francisco. We are back in San Francisco, where Scott Lang / Ant-Man, once again being played by good old Paul Rudd, resides / lives along with his family. Yeah, I mean, you know, the characters of Ant-Man residing in San Francisco, and life for Scott Lang, and he does a bit of narration. Very interesting for him, I should say. You know, like, when he, like, is walking through a street, people are noticing him, even when, like, say they ask him to take pictures with their dogs, and they get his superhero name wrong. Like, I know that, like a few times, like, they act like he's mistaken for, I think, yeah, the God of Thunder. We know who that is, of course. Also, he's mistaken for Spider-Man. Good lord. And don't they know that Spider-Man doesn't reside in San Francisco? Apparently not. And not to mention that he got a special portrait, a plaque and such, I guess you could say, at the baking place that he used to work at, Baskin Robbins, the, you know, employee of the universe. You know that. So, but hey, that's a nice honor for him. And not to mention that, well, we also, once again, get Hope Van Dyne, aka the Wasp, once again being played by Evangeline Lilly, if I'm even pronouncing her first name right. Again, you know me sometimes, but you know who it is, of course. And by the way, Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania marks Lily's last movie, because after this, she would retire from acting. Well, I mean, I hope, you know, whenever needed, like, coming back, you know, just for, like, say, playing Hope. I mean, what's wrong with that? But, yeah. Anyways, so, by this point, and according to Scott, Hope has regained her father's business, and things are looking good for what Hope is doing and for her family, now that she's running her daddy's business. And, you know, the romance between Scott and Hope, really good. And even, like, say, like at one point, they go on a date in their superhero uniforms on top of the Golden Gate Bridge. Well, that's fun for them. But yeah, just overall, life's going pretty well for them. And then at one point, well, Scott receives a call from a jail. Basically, Scott's daughter got herself into jail, and the reason being is because, well, she's kind of following in her daddy's footsteps. She's wanting to do some good, because at one point she was helping out some homeless people, even shrank a police car, and this is especially, and with the mentioning of the homeless people, this is especially after the events of Thanos' snap, and as they call it, the blip, yeah, because of that. And, just almost throughout the film, Scott's daughter, Cassie, just wanting to do good and help and such, but Scott kind of stepping away from that. I mean, he has his reasons, and as he explains, you know, not to mention that, you know, whenever needed, he'll always be there if the Avengers, you know, summon him and such, yeah. Also, Scott even wrote a book. He now is a writer, and he has a book that's been published, and he's at a library at one point reading off his book, and the mentioning of, you know, say, Hope and Cassie, and the people that are there listening to him reading his book are some kids who are dressed up like him, his superhero, yeah, his superhero identity, Ant-Man and such, yeah. So, yeah. So, like I said, Cassie Lane, whom this time being played by the lovely, talented Catherine Newton, and Emma Furman, if I'm getting her last name right, I'm pretty sure, yeah. We know that she was the first one to play teenage/older Cassie in Avengers Endgame, and yeah, I remember reading this, and I'm sure you guys do too, where Emma found out about this when the cast changing for Cassie happened. Although she was saddened by this, she was grateful to having been being a part of the MCU. Even though Cassie didn't have that much to do in Endgame, well, I mean, especially the one big moment where, yeah, Scott reunites with Cassie after 5 years when the blip happened. Now that was a pretty good moment right there, and Emma, she did pretty good at, playing Cassie, most notably for that sequence. So, yeah, anyways. But, she was pretty good, being the first one to play teenage/older Cassie. But when enter Catherine Newton, I thought Catherine Newton in the third Ant-Man film, well, she did pretty good. Absolutely, yeah. And, like I said, following in her daddy's footsteps, but when she gets her own suit. All right. So again, she gets out of prison and jail and such, and, Scott is disappointed, but, yeah, even, say, Hope and Cassie, they make it very clear to him that, yeah, listening to what he has said at times, just, yeah, taking what he said, that whole thing. And then they have family dinner, and, because it's brought up that, that Cassie, along with Hope and Dr. Hank Pym, whom once again being played by the one and only Michael Douglas, the three of them, they were doing something unbeknownst to Scott. And yeah, Janet knew a little, yeah. And yeah, basically, during the 5 years of when Thanos' snap happened, / the blip, well, Cassie actually took her now grandpa. That's sweet, Cassie now referring to Hank and Janet as her grandparents. That's great to see. Basically, my point being is that she basically took a book from Dr. Hank Pym, his, with the technology and gadgets that he's built, and constructing something of her own. And this also has to do with, as Hank puts at it, ant science. Yeah, but also this has to do with the quantum realm. Yeah. Basically, Cassie invented and built a subatomic Hubble telescope. And this has to do with, contacting the quantum realm. Now, that part Janet didn't know about. And it was making communications to the quantum realm. And when Janet realized this, she's telling Cassie to shut it off now. But it's too late. Even when she does, it's too late. And then something happens. The telescope, and with it being linked to the quantum realm, yeah, basically, all four of them, they're getting sucked in. They do get sucked in, one by one, and yeah, they get sucked in. Now, they're making their way into the quantum realm. And this I kind of didn't expect. Not even when, when seeing the trailers and such, I don't think, no, they didn't really indicate that this was going to happen. The trailers didn't indicate it. There was no evidence or anything like that. Indication, I should say, until the movie came out. And this isn't the first time that they've done this. I can think of, say, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 or one or two others. But yeah, basically, the majority of this movie, some of the characters are separated from each other. We have the Dine family, Hope, and her parents together. They are separated from Scott and Cassie. Yeah, they are separated from each other in the quantum realm. And there's something that, because, yeah, Janet, she was wanting it to be shut off, unbeknownst to all of them. Well, we knew, of course, they knew that Janet was stuck in the quantum realm for 30 years. But there's something that she didn't tell them until very later on in the movie. Yeah, something she's been keeping secret, and well, frankly, she wanted to forget about what happened when she was there in the quantum realm. And well, this obviously has to do with whom we saw at the very start of the movie when he came face to face, when Janet came face to face with him, I should say. But until I get there. So yeah, so with them arriving in the quantum realm, and throughout the film, them being stuck in the quantum realm, seeing all these strange creatures, and even when at one point, Scott and Cassie, they get, brought in by these creatures, these quantum people, to refer to them, and, well, when they arrive at this village, this tribe and such, well, basically, at one point they're separated, but then, they're chanting, and Cassie informing her dad to drink a specific goo, drink the goo, and he's forced to drink this goo, and eventually, when he drinks the goo, it's been poured in his mouth, he starts to hear all of the quantum people. They were speaking gibberish, alien languages, but now, as he drank it, well, he then started to hear them from speaking gibberish, different languages, to English. So basically Cassie did first, and then Scott. They have to drink the goo so they can hear them, speak English and so on. So now that they understand them. And our group of characters that are a part of, this tribe of quantum people, and the more we learn about this group of alien creatures and such in the quantum realm, first off, there's a goo-like alien creature named, Quaz. Yeah, Quaz. And he, no. That's, no. Quaz is, I'll get to Quaz in a second. I want to start with him. Veb. Yes, Veb. He's a slime-like creature whose ooze can make anyone understand. So, yeah. So, with his ooze, yeah, that's it, ooze. Yeah, responsible for helping anybody to understand all of them. And Veb, the ooze alien creature, Veb is voiced by, I'll pull him up and such, here he is, yeah. Veb being voiced by David Dast McLachin, if I'm even getting his last name right. And, because he had previously been in the Ant-Man films as one of Scott's friends, and most notably having that, van with the tune and such. Yeah, him. That's another thing, because Scott's friends whom we saw in the first two Ant-Man films, and most notably What's-Him-Face, who's probably best known for recapping and, on just so Scott is it's, who I'm talking about, of course. It's a shame we don't see them in the third installment. Now, not to say that I'm complaining, I don't know, because it would have been nice if they would have made an appearance in this. Not to mention, we do at least get a very quick cameo of Jimmy Woo. Yeah, Jimmy Woo, once again played by Randall Park. He has a very quick cameo because in the opening and with Scott, life, pretty good for him. There's a moment where he's, I guess, having coffee or something with Jimmy Woo. So, hey, it was nice that we at least got Jimmy Woo for a few seconds, but what about Scott's friends? It would have been nice too, but again, overall, it was okay. The film still turned out okay with them not being in the film, but anyways. Also, to name off the other alien characters, as I just mentioned his name, I meant to start with Veb, but yeah, instead, we have Quaz. Quaz, being played by William Jackson Harper. And Quaz, he's a humanoid telepath. And it's pretty funny whenever, like, he can read Scott's mind. And also, this was brought up by Veb asking Scott how many holes he has, and even Quaz at one point was getting aggravated by that and such. And they're wanting to know exactly who they are and where they come from, Scott and Cassie, and the best that they put at it, and they're both talking at the same time, because, you know, they come from up above, they come from Earth, and when they're trying to describe Earth, they're trying to describe the quantum realm, just, yeah. But thankfully, Quaz, because he's reading their minds, they're telling the truth, and yeah, it's all good. However, another one of this group of quantum realm people, this tribe and such, saying to Scott and Cassie that they shouldn't be here, that being Jentora, I think I'm saying her name right, being played by Katie O'Brien, probably best known for, well, being in The Mandalorian, being one of the Imperial officers, that Imperial officer. And fun fact, because Peyton Reed, whom, once again, directing the third installment, because he had worked with Katie on The Mandalorian, because, as you all know, I'm sure, Peyton did work on The Mandalorian, and it's obvious that he had a great time working with Katie, and he wanted to have her be a part of the third Ant-Man film and create a character for her that she can play. And I think that, yeah, Jentora, whom, yeah, a description of her, Jentora, a quantum realm native who is well accustomed to the biomes and beings that live there. Yeah, so I thought that, yeah, Katie O'Brien, a good actress she is, she was pretty good in this. And that goes for all the other main quantum realm characters that we have. You know, Quaz and Veb. And there's even one that has like a light bulb or something to his head, you know? He gets a few moments here and there, yeah. That being Exlom, if I'm saying his name right, yeah. He has a light to his head, best way to describe him. Yeah, he gets a few moments here and there, and he's right there next to the others, yeah, to Veb and Quaz and what's-her-face, yeah. And Exlom, again, I'm pretty sure I am pronouncing it right. Exelom being played/voiced by Jamie Andrew Cutler. I think I have seen him before, but yeah, anyways. So, yeah, again, overall, yeah, Jentora, you know, saying that they shouldn't be here, Cassie and Scott, and even when the name Janet is mentioned, oh, Jentora knows who Janet is. And coming back to the dying family, Hope, Hank, and Janet. Well, because, yeah, again, like I said, them being separated from Scott and Cassie, and they're trying to find them. And, yeah, still, something that Janet did not tell them that happened when she was in the quantum realm for 30 years, yeah. Them making their way, and we noticed a couple of times from Hank that his hearing aid, something about it where it's like he's receiving, like, communications or something, or maybe it's going haywire, but unbeknownst to him and to us, what happens next? Like, what's been going on at times when, yeah, it seems like maybe it was going haywire or something? At one point, they come face to face, well, with another group of, you know, alien creatures and such, you know, in the quantum realm, and Janet confronting them, just, you know, basically like having a little fight with one of them, stabbing the alien and cutting its arm. And I somehow knew that this was coming. I somehow knew that, yeah, then yeah, after that they start to laugh, and that was like a friendly stab, as Hank was asking. And, well, basically, they have a ride. Janet knows who these group of creatures are. Yeah, well, especially since, you know, all that time she spent in the quantum realm and getting to know these creatures/beings that live in the quantum realm and them knowing her. So, then, when they get their ride and they ride on this, like, stingray-like creature, well, they make their way to this location where there's a bar, and Janet knows someone else where maybe he can be of some help. And, like with Cassie and Scott, and even, yeah, Janet points this out to Hank and Hope, they've got to drink the ooze as well, and thus they do. And yeah, them hearing and understanding all the others speaking English. And the bartender, Hank asks the bartender if there's something that he can drink where he could get drunk, and just so happens, yeah, have it. So then, at one point, well, whom Janet happens to know as well, and maybe he can be of some help, and she apparently, knew him very well all that time, 30 years that she was, being in the quantum realm, and that being Krylar, played by the one and only Bill Murray. Yeah. It's nice to see that we've got Bill Murray in something Marvel and in the MCU. But the thing is, he's not in this the entirety. Like, it's so much for him, and until I get there in a moment. But yeah. But, and fun fact, because Bill Murray, he apparently wanted to be a part of the MCU for quite a while, and when it came to him being cast in the third Ant-Man film, well, yeah, no doubt that he was looking forward to this. He apparently even called up Catherine Newton to, make sure if she was okay with him being in this. Well, they don't share any scenes together, but, I don't know, because, I remember reading that, I don't know that much about it, but anyways. And Krylar, who is now referred to as Lord Krylar, a description of him, he's the governor of Exea, if I'm even pronouncing that word right, a cushy community, within the quantum realm, who enjoys his high status, So, again, Krylar and Janet, they've known each other, and, them being reunited, and he is, anxious to meet Dr. Hank Pym as well as Hope, and, because he's known so much about them thanks to Janet, and I was even wondering, and I'm pretty sure that, even Hank and Hope, they were like, wait a second, because, and it's obvious, apparently, because, they did have a relationship, Krylar and Janet. But, anyways, Janet tries to get some help from Krylar, the situation that they're in, and when mentioning that, they're trying to get back to two others that are stuck in the quantum realm with them as well, two other humans. And, Krylar, knowing, of course, about humans, the existence of humans, even though he's not a human, he looks like a human, but he's not. Yeah, one of those aliens whom, looks like they look exactly like humans, but they're not, so, yeah. And it just starts to get out of hand. And especially, and when I mentioned Gentora, recognizing the name Janet, definitely Scott and Cassie, they shouldn't be here. All because, and as they refer to him, the Conqueror. Yeah, something about the Conqueror. And if it's not obvious whom the Conqueror is, they have no idea how much they're screwed. Not to mention that the Conqueror is now going to go after Scott and Cassie. Yeah, he needs them, most notably Scott, for something specific. We don't know just yet, but as the film proceeds. So between what's going on with Cassie, Scott, and with the Pym family, did I say Pym? I meant Pym. If I mispronounced that, I'm sorry. Pym, because there's an M. Between what's going on with each of them being separated, because things start to go out of hand and shit happens, pardon my French, but it's true. Well, Scott and Cassie, they're located, and not to mention, where all of these quantum realm people, because we learned that they're homeless, their homes were destroyed, they've been surviving and coming together. Not to mention, there's a couple of houses that are alive, and they can shoot and fire and such. They are alive and such. They're like, part machine, part being, But yeah, and well, Cassie, she's wanting to help them out, but Scott, even though he understands that how much she wants to help, but no, he wants nothing to do with this. And even Cassie setting her dad straight, because his attitude and why he's refusing to help and such. Even when Quaz, he read their minds, just again, him being telepath. But yeah, so again, they are discovered. The cover is blown for the Quantum Realm people. They tried to fight them back, but they're no match for the Conqueror's army, the troops and such. And even when a big one from the Conqueror, his right-hand man, I guess you could say, who arrives and, well, captures Scott and Cassie, well, it's MODOK. Yeah, because we finally get MODOK in the MCU. But I'm pretty sure, for a lot of people, MODOK in the MCU is probably not whom they were expecting. Now, granted, whom is MODOK? I mean, it's not a problem, but something about it. But, for me personally, that didn't bother me either, okay? Even his look and appearance, come on. It's understandable why. Well, basically, MODOK happens to be Darren, who was Yellow Jacket? Yeah. In the first Ant-Man film. Once again, being played by Corey Stoll. He's back, this time as MODOK. And throughout the film, he goes by MODOK. Darren is no more. He's now MODOK. And the appearance and look of MODOK, Darren, that is, well, come on, again, I have to bring up the CG and visual effects in this. They did the best they could, and look, it's understandable why Darren looks like that, and now that he goes by MODOK, well, and even the movie explains this, because, as we all know, in the first Ant-Man film, he was defeated when he was shrunken down, and he was sent to the Quantum Realm. But, at one point, Darren was recovered and saved by the Conqueror, and because his body was short, his head was very big, and he had tiny little baby legs and hands, he was placed in the suit that he wears, and now going by MODOK. So yeah, by this point, Scott and Cassie, they're captured by MODOK and brought in. Not to mention, when Scott and Cassie, they tried to fight off the Conqueror's soldiers, well, and even when, finally, we saw Cassie in action in her very own suit. And there's a funny moment where Scott is trying to teach Cassie how to specifically jump and fight, and whenever shrinking small or, shrinking back up the full size. But there's real no time for that because of the situation that they're in. But it was pretty funny. The best he can do to teach her, So, again, they're captured. And coming back to the Pym family. Because, I forgot, because Hank his last name is Pym. Janet's last name goes by Dine. Okay, so yeah. But I just, overall, I'll just go with the Pym. I'll go with the Pym family, okay? Coming back to the Pym family. Because like I said, things get out of hand, and apparently Krylar kind of obeying the law and such, and respecting the Conqueror, and as of now, they're not going to get any help from Krylar. And when they were almost about to be taken in, well, luckily, Hope takes action first, getting in her Wasp suit, the helmet and such, and those devices to make anything shrink or big. Yeah, using those, and even when, Hank, he got his revenge, well, taking care of Krylar himself, throwing one at a drink that had a tiny squid. The squid grows, and Krylar is done for. And like I said, we don't get that much of Krylar, just for that, and that's it. So much for Krylar's appearance in this, let alone Bill Murray, but hey, it was not too bad. And it is brought up now, and even after they take on some of the soldiers, they hijack a ship, and the way that it flies, controlling it. Well, basically, this, like, gooey stuff where Hank has to put his hands in. And best described by Janet, it's like, you know, controlling and riding a bicycle or something. Just how she puts at it specifically. It's pretty funny. But thankfully, Hank gets the use of it. Like, yeah, he manages to quickly, it doesn't take him too long to get the hang of it. Yeah, get the hang of it, of flying this ship. And as I was about to mention, because, yeah, when, yeah, Janet says that, you know, he had a relationship with Krylar for 30 years, because, yeah, all that time she was stuck in the quantum realm, even Hank, he had a relationship too, while his wife was still stuck in the quantum realm, with this woman named Linda. And it didn't work out for Hank, and this was sweet of him. And when Janet asked Hank why it didn't work between him and Linda, because Linda was nothing like Janet. And that's sweet. That's very sweet of Hank. Even though, you know, at that time, you know, during the time when she was stuck in the quantum realm, they still loved and cared for one another, but yeah, just the relationships that we're in, I mean, there's a lot of words to put at it, but I'm sure you get the point. But anyways. So yeah, now that they've hijacked a ship, well, because, you know, finding a way to locate Cassie and Scott, and when, yeah, like, probably by this point, they probably did get captured, and which they did by the Conqueror. Even when at one point Krylar brought up that maybe they're dead, and oh man, before, like, you know, shit happened where, yeah, the fighting happened, Hope was almost about to do something. She was almost about to unleash something, but yeah, Hank had her to stop, and just not yet, yeah. Anyways, and coming back to Scott and Cassie, because again, by this point, them being captured by the Conqueror, they're put in jail, and apparently, this is the third time for Cassie, but for Scott, I think it's fourth time? Yes, I'm pretty sure, yeah. And once again, MODOK popping in, and yeah, and at that point, at that scene where, yeah, coming face-to-face with him in their jail cells, that's when we get more information, as I brought up, about, you know, what happened to Darren and how he became MODOK, and Scott interrupting his, you know, the story that MODOK's telling, where, yeah, he now gets the name MODOK and what it's short for. I'll remember to put a text of that, yeah, because it's pretty funny, yeah, and there should be an F in his name, MODOK, but probably not necessary, but anyways. So, yeah, and MODOK giving warnings to Scott and Cassie, and because the mentioning of the Conqueror and such, you know, but anyways. You know, even there was at one point where, yeah, those group of Quantum Realm people, the natives, the tribe, they were captured. We do see them very later on, but until I get to them. So, coming back to the Pym family, because, yeah, to go ahead and mention this and to speed things up, because, yeah, and the more, you know, background we get, you know, what was going on with Janet when she was stuck in the quantum realm, she finally tells her daughter and husband what she was keeping from them. What they did not know happened to her, specifically, when she was stuck in the quantum realm until now. Because whom she came face-to-face with is, in fact, of course, the Conqueror. Little did Janet know at first, as I said earlier. And, yeah, to go ahead and mention him, because, yeah, Kang the Conqueror, who's the main antagonist for the third Ant-Man film, and being played by Jonathan Majors, yes. And say what you will, but, you know, there's no doubt, and ever since Kang made his debut in the first season of Loki, already, because we can tell that, yeah, Kang, and with Jonathan Majors portraying Kang, oh, he was really good. He was really good at what he was bringing to the performance of Kang. And Kang, I know that this was brought up when my dad and I, we reviewed Loki, and when we got up to when Kang finally appeared, that Kang, he's a very, a master, I should say, a master of manipulation, because Loki and Sylvia, yeah, they are manipulators as well, but Kang is the worst of them all. He's the biggest one, he's better at it than Loki and Sylvia and so on, yeah. And it shows, I mean, yeah, at times in this movie, the manipulations that he does, and the lies and breaking promises. One big promise that he made to Scott, and yeah, I mean, of course, how is Scott, I mean, Scott didn't see it coming that, yeah, Kang did not keep that promise, but until I mention it. So yeah, Janet encountered Kang at one point, and things seemed to go pretty well between Kang and Janet talking about, you know, how much her wanting and hoping to go back to Earth and to reunite with Hank, and most notably, her Jelly Bean. Yep, because if you remember, she refers to her daughter Hope as Jelly Bean. Yeah, talking, just overall, Janet talking to Hope about, talking to Kang, I should say, sorry, about Hope and Hank, and well, there's one moment where they actually work together. A ship that Kang came in when he made his way into the quantum realm, it's damaged, and there's a core that's a part of his ship that needs to be repaired, and this has to do with, you know, multiverse stuff and time travel, stuff like that, you know, traveling through the multiverse, that stuff, you know, so much details to that, but, you know, anyways. And yeah, because it took quite a while, but yeah, Janet and Kang, they repaired his ship the best they could, which, yeah, in the end, they finally did, and when about to place the core in, somehow, Janet, when touching one part of the ship, and obviously this has to do with the core, well, she saw something through the core, like, basically, well, the devious schemes and evil stuff that Kang had been doing even before he made his way into the quantum realm, and what he would have done continuously if he had, well, escaped and left the quantum realm. Janet now sees that Kang is an evil being. He can't be trusted. And Kang lied to her on taking her back to Earth, and, well, because, yeah, and her knowing that, well, Kang's gonna do something terrible to Earth. And knowing the character of Kang, of course, and in the comics, yeah, we know. And what she does next is, with those devices, making things, you know, shrinking them very small or very big, using that on the core to his ship, and basically, yeah, I mean, the core is, because it has a name to it, like the multiversal engine core, yeah. And, you know, it's a power source of the time sphere, which allowed Kang the Conqueror to travel across the multiverse. But Janet, using those devices, like I said, using it to basically obliterate the core, making it big and so on, and now Kang, by this point, he's screwed and is stuck, literally, in the not the multiverse, the quantum realm. And with him still being stuck in the quantum realm, well, he built an army, an empire, and yeah. And there's also a mention of this Kang, because it's obvious that, you know, this is not the same Kang that we saw in Loki Season 1, right? So this Kang, he was banished and exiled from, you know, those that are not named at first. Well, yeah, at first, but at a certain point they are. He was basically, this Kang was banished / exiled from, you know, from the other Kangs. Yeah, they banished / exiled this variation of Kang. So, yeah, and, well, as I recall, like, and how it, you know, from the looks of it and the sounds of it, this Kang in the third Ant-Man film, probably the most craziest one out of all the other Kangs, right? But it's not like look, it's not like he's the only psychotic evil Kang variant. Well, that goes for all the others, but something about this one, I presume, far different. And even when Kang brought this up to Janet the next time they encountered one another, and when we slowly get to the climax. But anyways, so yeah, and Janet, she spent her time trying to stop and take on Kang, but until when Janet was rescued and recovered from the quantum realm in the events of the second Ant-Man film. Yeah, and she tried to forget about it, as I mentioned as well, and she tried to forget about it and felt that maybe this would pass and maybe nothing would happen, but until what would happen at the beginning of Ant-Man 3, yeah, and eventually she told Hope and Hank, and now they understand, and, well, of course, they've got to do something to stop Kang and to recover the core before, with the use of Scott, because, again, now that Kang has got Scott in his hands, he's going to use Scott to use those devices because he has plenty of those, and to shrink the core back to his right size, and thus he will proceed with his evil plans. Yeah, to conquer and just screw up the multiverses, no matter what. Just, yeah, best way to put at it. So, they must get to where they will find them. Yeah, Hope, Hank, and Janet. So, yeah. So, coming back to Scott and Cassie, yeah, as I explained, Kang holding Scott hostage, using Scott for the devices he has, and in order to get into the multiversal engine core to shrink it back. And if he doesn't apply, well, if he doesn't go along with this, then he will kill Cassie. And, well, of course, Scott's not going to let that happen, and he goes along with what Kang is wanting him to do, as long as Cassie survives and lives. And Kang, he goes along with it. They have a deal, they have a promise, but, like I said, just, no. Anyways, and also, we actually see a few times that Kang can be an abusive, boss to MODOK. Yeah, we see that a few times, just, yeah. But, anyways, so, yeah. So when Scott comes to an agreement to help Kang, well, making their way, and when we come to the multiversal engine core, and a moment where Cassie, she hugs her daddy, and I had a feeling that this was coming, because, yeah, Cassie saying to her dad that, this is her fault, the situation that they're in now, them being stuck in the quantum realm, but no. She just didn't know. And how were any of them supposed to know? And that technically also goes for Janet, but yeah. And Scott assuring and explaining to Cassie that, everything that happened to him, his life being messed up and in a good way, and, what would come along in his life when his life was messed up, when he would, of course, have another family, which being Hope, Hank, and Janet, and, even like at this point where he and his daughter are at, and not to mention that, well, Cassie, not only following in her daddy's footsteps, apart from what got her in jail, but the fact that she's in one of those suits. Now that's good. So, anyways. So, Scott, he proceeds, going into the multiversal engine core, but, yes, I think I kind of forgot about this a few times, but yeah, basically, there's a moment, and when he goes down there, a probability storm, yeah, the probability storm happens. Multiple versions of Scott Lang emerge, they come off of him, just like, just, that kind of stuff, and just multiplying every single one. There's even one Scott out of all of the others who are in the Ant-Man suits. There's one that, in the Baskin-Robbins getup. Yeah, one Scott Lang that has the Baskin-Robbins wardrobe. I mean, that was pretty nice. And it's one of those things where, yeah, at least out of all of them, there's one that would have a different pair of wardrobe, right? But anyways, so that happens, and, basically, each of them, they're not succeeding on trying to, shrink the core back to its size. Like, even when they shrink, when they large themselves as Giant Man, they just, just like, they're like shredded into pieces and such, It's not looking good for all of the Scotts and the main one. But thankfully, when they all hear Cassie's voice, that's when they properly come together and help the Scott. Yeah, helping him get up there. All of them make a tower. Some of them fall. And Scott, when at one point trying to throw one of those devices, he threw one. It wasn't enough. But thankfully, just in the nick of time, the Pym family arrive, and Hope, well, getting in her Wasp getup, and same thing's happening with her, with the probability storm. Multiple versions of her happen, and Janet addresses and assures Hope that none of them are really her, and good on Hope's part for just ignoring them and proceeding to fly down. And, well, thankfully, Hope and Scott, they're reunited, and by using those devices, they shrink it back down to the small size it is, and yeah. And after that, well, like I said, Scott and Hope, they're reunited, but when Kang shows up, and even Janet being right there too, yeah, Kang reuniting with Janet once again, and, even when Kang, should have seen this coming, of course, he broke the promise to Scott that Cassie would be alright. And man, whenever Scott Lang, no matter what, say if it was, the first two Ant-Man films, or when being in the Avengers films, no matter what, when Scott gets serious, when he has his serious moments, oh yeah, he has those. Not just him with his funny personality and such, you know what I'm saying? No, Scott, he can be serious when needed to, and it's right there, especially when, learning that Kang, he lied to Scott's face, that Cassie would be alright. Oh yeah, he's pissed. And as a father should be. Well, because, how much, their child means to them, of course. You see, makes sense. It's understandable. And Kang, he takes care of Hope and Scott and, getting back the core and even taking Janet hostage, even when at one point, Hank, who's still flying the ship, he comes face to face with Darren. Yeah, a little reunion between Darren and Hank, and Hank knows it's Darren, but Darren not going by Darren anymore. He's now MODOK, and the ultimate power, powerful weapon and such. And he shoots and takes down Hank and the ship that he was flying, and it does crash, but thankfully Hank did survive. And that's another thing. If any of you know this, originally Michael Douglas did at one point want his character Hank Pym to die in this film. But that, of course, didn't happen. It's obvious that maybe it would have happened, if Hank had crashed. The ship crashes and such, and maybe that would have been it. But nope, that didn't happen. And besides, did Michael Douglas at that point just got tired of doing this? He did so well in the first two. I don't know, I guess that's just his opinion, but I'm just saying that I think Michael Douglas, he was still good. He did pretty good in this. Even when he did survive, and how he survived, but until I get there in a moment. Yeah. And it seems like, even I also read where Michael Douglas, he also stated that if there being a fourth Ant-Man film, then he wouldn't see himself be a part of that. Well, man, I don't know, because maybe, I'm guessing probably, after the events of Ant-Man 3, he can be mentioned, but it's not he just, have Hank and Janet, spend their lives, and, they don't have to join in on another adventure. Not unless, say, making a cameo. And that also goes for Hope. But, and as I brought up earlier about Lily, this being the last time she would be in a movie and this, but you get my point. So, like I said, Kang, he gets the core back and takes Janet in hostage. And, well, his plans are soon about to go underway. And, well, at one point, we see Cassie. She's alright, but she's obviously going to be taken in. And I'm pretty sure it was mentioned that she was going to be planned to be killed and such. But thankfully, she has the devices to make her small and so on. She does so, and, yeah, taking down those 2 soldiers and hiding from a couple of others that are coming. And, yeah, what is she going to do now? Well, thankfully, when she makes her way into a prison section, a section of prison, she happens to stumble upon Gentora, and she tries to set free Gentora, and she doesn't know, like, how to do it, like, if there needs to be a key or something, because there's a console panel, you know, and obviously to, you know, deactivate the shields that keep the prisoners held, you know, holding the prisoners. But thankfully a soldier comes in, and by using the soldier, his head, that gets Gentora's jail cell open, deactivated. So now, Cassie getting help from Gentora, and what they plan to do, and following Gentora's lead, is to free the others and try to find a way to get everyone to come together, Gentora's other fellow Quantum Realm people to come together and to fight and take on Kang, basically. And that's what happens, because, yeah, when we see Kang again, well, because, yeah, again, he took Janet hostage, and Kang explaining to Janet about, you know, when he was banished and exiled, and, you know, how his other Kang variations, what they were doing and with the multiverses and, you know, like children and such, and, you know, he had something planned and different up his sleeves than the other Kang variations, but in a crazy evil way, basically. And so much that he went through, and to get back to those, what happened, like what they did to him, that talk he gives, just, yeah. Just overall, yeah. This Kang, he is just basically, like, almost like causing the end of the world to the entire universe. The multiverses, everything. He did, even managing to take some of variations of the Avengers down, but not all of them. So then, coming back to Scott and Hope, there were a few times I almost said Cassie, but good thing I catched myself. Yeah, Hope. I don't want to get the names mixed up. Hope and Scott, they regained consciousness. They were knocked out by Kang, as I said. And Hank, he's all right. And how he survived, well, remember when I mentioned that his earpiece, you know, it seemed like it was going haywire or something, but not really. He, all that time, was receiving communications from the ants, because when they were sucked in through that telescope, we saw, the glass box with the ants, and with the whole ant science. They were brought into the quantum realm as well, and they were grown big, a little bigger, say, than, Hank and the others, Maybe almost like, say, just about the size of an elephant or hippo, pretty much just, And apparently, according to Hank, the ants, man, did they gain a personality and intelligence, being very smart all through the years, and being advanced ants, and, they, building some gadgets and, with the technology, and, yeah, in great nick of time that they come in and to help out Scott, Hope, and Hank, yeah, to get Janet and Cassie back, and hopefully to take on Kang. So, yeah, we're getting good here. And we're getting near to the climax, because, yeah, sure enough, and when Scott, Hope, and Hank, actually no, because the ship didn't get destroyed, and it's thanks to the ants. They were rebuilding it. Rebuilding it that quick. So, yeah, so they're flying again. And there's one moment where Kang, he makes a speech to everyone in the quantum realm on what is to happen, but his little speech is interrupted when Cassie basically hacks the system and makes a speech to the quantum realm people that they need to fight back, be stronger. And thanks to Cassie's speech, they all come together, and even taking on the soldiers of the Conquerors, and yeah, now things are looking good, and now Kang being no match, really, to everyone. Almost, but yeah. So, yeah, finally, them making their way, and, well, all of the Quantum Realm people, and to speed things up, because, yeah, a big battle that happens where, you know, from Gentora, Quaz, Vep, and the others, and I can't forget to mention this one character that even Hank noticed and how he described him. This one Quantum Realm being who his head is Broccoli. And literally, that's what he's called. That's how he's credited. Broccoli Man. And Broccoli Man being played by Graham Fox. Yeah, and I am pretty sure that, yeah, Broccoli Man did have a few speaking lines, but not that much, but still, yeah. So that's funny, because, yeah, best way to describe him, Broccoli Man. So, yeah, Broccoli Man, of course, joining in the battle, of course. And, yeah, and eventually, even when eventually, I should say, Scott, Hope, and Hank, they step in, and most notably Scott, when he becomes Giant Man. And, boy, when he calls out Kang's name, and, you know, you lied to me, you promised me, just, yeah. Oh, he's taking down Kang for sure after what he pulled, without doubt. No doubt, of course. And yeah, and again, say what you will about the CG and visual effects, but still, I think especially in the climax and in the third act, and when the big battle happens, they're all trying to take down Kang, I think it looked pretty fine and such. Even when, yeah, because ships come in, they fire, just, yeah, and they're making good progress, taking down Kang's troops. But when it comes to Kang, oh boy. But yeah, and then there's one moment where MODOK, he's sent out to go find and to destroy Cassie, and yeah, there's a little fight between Cassie and MODOK, and when, yeah, Cassie trying to avoid and escape from MODOK, well, yeah, even, like, most notably shrinking down, and eventually, yeah, Cassie manages to take down MODOK, and when she does grow big, yeah, and yeah, her taking down Kang instantly like that, and apparently MODOK, redemption starts to come to him, and he doesn't know what he is and what to do, and Cassie telling MODOK, you know, just don't be a dick, and, you know, but I am a dick, but, you know, her encouraging MODOK to not be a dick, and he should help out by this point, you know, and especially since, yeah, he was kind of treated badly, as I brought up, like, treated badly at times to, you know, from Kang, so, yeah, and that's what would happen to MODOK in a little bit, and until I get there, so, yeah, and then, yes, a reunion between Cassie and Scott, and they're both big, and apparently, after they hug and Scott calling, and I forgot to bring this up, that Scott still calls his daughter Peanut, and apparently now they're hungry, and I seem to forget that, yeah, that can affect them when they're big and such, so yeah, and Hope stepping in, Hope reunites with Cassie, and yeah, and even when at one point, the tower, the main tower base, you know, where Kang is, it's taken down as well, thanks to Hope and Scott, and taking down these, like, rings and just, yeah. But overall, Kang and what he was about to do, you know, he's defeated, kind of, but Kang, well, he takes it upon himself to, you know, attack and destroy some of the Quantum Realm people, and yeah, his powers, like, and just, like, unleashing, like, blue, you know, phasers, kind of, you know, very powerful, and just obliterating some of the Quantum Realm people like that, and even up to the point where they're no match for Kang. They even tried to, you know, fall back, you know, but thankfully, when it seemed like, yeah, they were unable to stop Kang, and even when it comes to, say, Cassie, Scott, and Hope, they tried to take on Kang, they're no match for him, thankfully, and sure enough, Hank steps in. Did I say Hank? Scott, Hope, Cassie, you know, getting the names mixed up, I don't want to. My point being, when Scott, Hope, and Cassie, they tried to take on Kang, but they were no match for him, unfortunately, just in the nick of time, Hank stepping in with the ants, and the ants they're unstoppable, taking down the last remaining soldiers of Kang. And even when they take on Kang, he tries to protect himself with a force field, but yeah, it's too much it's too much, yeah. He's not even able to, stop the ants, and yeah, the ants, they take care of Kang, and presumably he's defeated, yeah. And yeah, just overall, they win, and they managed to stop Kang with what he was about to do with the core, and by that point, well, even when the ants, they were taking on Kang, MODOK did step in. Yeah, this is where MODOK really redeemed himself, and, I am Darren. Now he goes by Darren again. He's back as Darren, who's not a dick, and helping out, take on Kang, but yeah, ultimately, this caused Darren to have a sacrifice, and that's what happens, because, yeah, unfortunately, Darren, he doesn't make it, but at least he died when, being that he's now redeemed, and even calling himself an Avenger, and even referring to Scott as a brother. When did that happen? Well, I guess, Darren just didn't know until then, so that's understandable, So, yeah, it's great to see that Darren did get redeemed, and he died like a hero, and that's good to see. And it's nice to see that this MODOK, who started off being evil, but then became a hero at the end. That's good to see, yeah. But, yeah, and that's the end of Darren. He sadly dies in a kind of a funny way, just, yeah, anyways. And, well, a little goodbye between, our main characters with the Quantum Realm people, most notably Jentora, and Jentora thanking Cassie, and even Veb, he went for a hug on Cassie. There was even a badass moment for Veb, pardon my French, but it's true, because Veb, he got shot at by some of Kang's soldiers, causing him to have holes in his gooey body. And this outraged Veb, and unbeknownst to his fellow Quantum Realm people, they had no idea that he could do this, where, yeah, he, grows big and swallowing and gobbling, eating up some of Kang's soldiers. So, yeah, him being menacing, having his menacing moment. Nice on him. Anyways, and also, yeah, poor Exlom, he didn't make it. Yeah, because when they were trying to take on Kang, Jentora most notably, and when Exlom stepped in, yeah, he didn't make it, and yeah, Kang, he took him out like that. That's a shame. Anyways, well, and if it's not obvious, at least one of them, one of the main Quantum Realm people that we have in this movie, at least one of them would die, and it's Exelom, so yeah, anyways. But just overall, they say each of them say their goodbyes, and thus, and even when, Janet calls them up, and yeah, finding a way to get them back home, with the core and such, yeah. And they managed to, yeah, getting it all set up, and thus making their way back home. But when it's Cassie's turn, Scott pushes Cassie back to Earth, because, yeah, Kang, he's not defeated just yet. He takes on Scott, and, yeah, a bit of fist fighting, even damaging almost the entirety of Scott's Ant-Man helmet. So, yeah, that's done for. And, well, Kang, yeah, he's not giving up entirely, because attempting to get to Earth and so on, and with the core, but with the help of Hope, when she steps in, yeah, overall, they managed to defeat Kang. They mess up the core, and throwing those devices on it, just, yeah, screwing it up entirely, and causing Kang to be grabbed into it, and thus, overall, Kang, this variation of Kang, is defeated once and for all. Or so we think. Yeah. So, yeah, and, well, thankfully, the madness, it's all over. It's done. And even when all of the Quantum Realm people, they start to cheer on Scott and Hope, yeah. And, yeah, they did get back home. We don't see it on camera, but, well, obviously they still found a way to get back home, safe and sound, so yeah. And the epilogue/ending to this, well, life for Scott, and, another narration that we get, well, still, going pretty good for him. And even when, like, say, still, the people still recognizing him and just, you know, but it occurs to Scott, even after, like, say, when he grabbed a coffee and the guy at the coffee shop, he finally gets it right on who Scott is, that he's the Bug Man. He accidentally called him Spider-Man, as I mentioned, but yeah, this time he got it right. And there's one moment where, yeah, at the Baskin-Robbins, he got a cake for his daughter, a birthday cake, which, you know, having an aunt to it, you know, happy birthday and such. Today is Cassie's birthday, is it? Well, we find out in just a few minutes, but yeah, after he picks up the cake at Baskin-Robbins, there's a moment with Scott himself, and as he's narrating and thinking to himself in his head, where, you know, did he and Hope and the others, did they actually defeat Kang, or is he still out there? Like, could Scott have doomed the entire universe, multiverses, you know? But nah, he doesn't let that bother him, and just, like, he's thinking too much of that to himself, you know? Like, pull yourself together, Scott, as he says to himself. And then, the last scene we get, they're all at a restaurant, and it's Cassie's birthday, or so it is. It's not her birthday, and this is basically Scott's way of, you know, having miss out on a lot of past birthdays she had. So, which that's nice and sweet to see from Scott, yeah. And apparently the taste of the cake to Scott wasn't that pretty good, so yeah, he even coughed a little, and boom, that's how the movie ends. But of course, we're not done quite yet, because there are 2 end credit scenes. By the way, to name some of the other cast members, yeah, I already mentioned Jimmy Woo. We also have Patrol Police Officer being played by Mark Weinman. He was also on set MODOK. That's nice to see. And nice to see that, you know, he had an on-screen appearance, you know, being the Patrol Police Officer. We have the Exia restaurant members, you know, Metri D being played by Ross Mullen, 2 bartenders being played by Tom Clark and Leon Cook, and 3 waiters being played by Nathan Blease, if I'm saying that right, Durasei, Kyungyo, I know I'm probably going to butcher some of their names, again, you know me sometimes, and Lorraine Nathan, again, 3 waiters at that restaurant. There's also Krylar's valet, being played by Sam Simons. Broccoli Man, yeah, I already mentioned Broccoli Man. Yeah, Graham Fox. Okay, yes, and corrections officer being played by Nicola Peluso, if I'm saying that right. Booking officer being played by Harrison Daniels. Hope's assistant at the company that she now runs, the business and such. Yeah, being played by Bramado Shannon Ramana. I think I got his full name right, I'm pretty sure. There's also Nomad Leader being played by Russell Bellog, and Quantumant Scientist being played by Leonardo Taiwo, if I'm getting that right. And a Quantumant Lieutenant being played by Ozion Roberts. And yeah, and book signing audience, Lucas Garstel, Mia Garstel, Tracy Jeffrey, and Dina Jeffrey, Judy Jeffrey, and so on. Just, yeah. And there's also, you know, a couple who are credited as Ant-Man fans, and Woman with Dog, Jogger, Toasting Woman. Yeah, I could go on, but yeah, and also some of the voices, like 2 voices of the Quantumans. Roger Craig Smith, and Matthew Wood. That's awesome, yeah. AKA the voices of Sonic the Hedgehog and General Grievous. Yeah. Oh yeah, and this is nice. Even the acting doubles for Janet and Lord Krylar, they're credited as well. Janet's acting double was Loveday Smith, and Lord Krylar's acting double was John Townsend. Well, for Krylar, acting photo double, so okay. And Nibjuri, if I'm even saying that right, being played by Tom Chaparling. Okay, and some that are uncredited, but yeah. But to go ahead and come to the 2 end credit scenes, well, as was mentioned, where, yeah, this variant of Kang in Ant-Man 3 being banished / exiled most notably, yeah, by his other fellow Kangs, we see all the other Kangs. And, well, you know, them being aware of what happened to that Kang and, well, what they're plotting and such. Yeah, a little tease and what could have been, as we all know, but yeah. And the last end credit scene at the end of the credits, and after, there's a dedication to the late David Jones. I just thought I'd point that out, yeah. After that, the last end credit scene, well, we see Kang, another variant of Kang, and, well, basically, to put it this, a tease for Loki Season 2. Yep, because Loki Season 2, having come out a little later after, you know, the third Ant-Man film was released, and we get uncredited appearances of Loki himself, Tom Hiddleston, and Owen Wilson as Mobius, yeah. Them appearing at the very end, and, well, again, this being linked with Season 2 of Loki. Yeah, that was awesome, the way that Ant-Man 3 ended, with them appearing in, yeah, because, you know, in connections with Kang, from Loki and Ant-Man's really awesome. Yeah. But yeah, Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania, it is what it is. It may not be the best Ant-Man film, let alone best, film in the MCU entirely, but in my opinion, I had no problem with this. I don't see it being the worst. Again, just come on, is it really the worst? At least in my opinion, I don't think so. I don't think so. Everything from beginning to end in Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania, not bad. The story, the plot, and the Ant-Man characters going up against Kang, and yeah, whom was in this, and, again, this being, one of the last movies for Evangeline Lilly, aka Hope Van Dyne / the Wasp, and Jonathan Majors, who finally got to appear as Kang in one of these movies in the MCU, but yeah, and the returning appearance of Darren, now MODOK, and, Cassie in this, and this time being played by Catherine Newton, just, yeah, from Paul Rudd, Lily, Michael Douglas, Michelle Pfeiffer, Jonathan Majors, Catherine Newton, Corey Stoll, Bill Murray, and the list goes on, just, yeah, and Katie O'Brien, William Jackson Harper, yeah, the entire cast of the third Ant-Man film, they were really good. And the CG and visual effects, again, say what you will, but again, I didn't think they were that bad. Again, not once while I was watching the movie did I complain and where I was like, oh yeah, that looks... No. Not at all, okay? The music and score, pretty good too. And not to mention, one more fun fact, I meant to bring this up, that apparently... one of the, writers, Jeff Loveness, he described the whole father and daughter dynamic, the relationship between father and daughter, being inspired from, say, Father of the Bride and Hook, if you know about this. And that's very nice, yeah. And the climax, some unexpected moments, and, just what happens, and the funny and emotional moments, the intenseful moments, yeah, just everything about the third Ant-Man film, Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania, in my opinion, again, I thought it was good. Not bad. Not the worst. It's just, yeah, not really the best Ant-Man film, and let alone the best film in the MCU, but it's okay for what it is, okay? It's fun, entertaining, enjoyable, and yeah, a lot of big important things that happen in the events of Quantumania, yeah. And I'm giving Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania, yeah, just why not, and how much I've said that, yeah, I've enjoyed this. I'm giving it, yeah, why not? 7 out of 10 stars. Yes, 7 out of 10 stars for Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania. And what about you guys? What did you think of Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania itself? Any of you that got to see this in theaters? I unfortunately didn't. Did you, as well, didn't think it was that bad, and, you know, thinking that it's not the worst in the MCU and not a bad Ant-Man film? Did you like all that was happening in this Ant-Man film, and with Kang being the main antagonist, and with the characters, Cassie, and, you know, with having, say, Katie O'Brien, Bill Murray? Did you get good laughs, and did you get a bit emotional? Did you not have any problems with, say, the visual and CG effects in this? Like, did you think everything about the third Ant-Man film was not bad, pretty good, just, yeah? And what are some of your favorite moments from this film? Just, yeah, overall, what do you think of Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania itself, and with what I've had to say, my review, and yeah, what did you think of my review? Leave comments and give this review video a like, as always. And so, with all that being said, thank you very much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed my review of Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. More review videos are coming your way. They're going to be awesome. Keep looking forward, and I'll see you guys in the next video / review. And, well, you know what's coming next, like, you know, what I'll get, you know, in Phase 5 of the MCU, yeah. The next movie, and right after Ant-Man and the Wasp, well, Loki Season 2, obviously, but yeah. But, aside from that, what I'll be reviewing next? Well, because, you know, I just reviewed a movie that has to do with ants, technically, well, what I'll be reviewing next has to do with, also has to do with ants, and to best describe it / put at it as well, it's Pixar's second big computer animated feature film. Yeah, is it not obvious what it is? You know. Stay tuned for that. Take care, and until Loki Season 2, that will be next. Peace out, and Avengers, assemble.